Welcome to Music Outlook LA, the podcast which highlights the independent artist, whether they are a musician, vocalist, actor, actress, live audio or in-studio engineer, or a videographer, photographer. I'm your host, Will Kimsey. Each episode, we'll look at the gigs of the independent artists, from the venues we play to how we set up and break down, the gear we use and why we use it, and the info we hope you'll find useful as we all make our way in the entertainment industry. Music Outlook LA is brought to you by Kim Z Entertainment LLC. Go to kim-zentertainment.com to find out what they're doing for the independent artist. Kim Z Entertainment LLC. Independent entertainment done independently. My guest today is musician, composer, producer Colin Wolfe. He's worked with such notables as Dr. Dre, George Clinton, Michael Jackson, TLC, and Erick Sermon of EPMD, just to name a few. He was instrumental in helping Dr. Dre create his now famous Moog bass line sound that's heard in many of his projects since the Chronic CD. These days, Colin spends his time working on various projects at Beacon Street Studios in Venice, California. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Colin Wolfe. Colin, my brother, what's happening with you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I am good, man, and thank you so much for joining the Music Outlook LA family and
no doubt
being a part of this here. And before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I pre-record all of my shows, and it has been 6 days since the tragic events that took place on Sunday that involved one of LA's beloved icons, Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna. So we here at Music Outlook LA would like to express our condolences to the Bryant family.
Oh, for sure. All praise and condolences to Kobe and Gigi, the whole family, and all the other families that were involved in that accident last Sunday.
There we go. All the other families of the crash that took place on Sunday, the 26th in Calabasas. We really lost a big one, man, because we watched that brother grow up from 17, 18 years old to 38, 37, 38 years old, 20-year career, man. He was a bad man.
Yeah.
So again, many condolences going out to the Bryant family and all the other families affected, to the family out at Orange Coast College and all of the other people involved. Our prayers definitely go out to you. So Colin, why don't you tell us about yourself? What's up with you? Who is Colin Wolfe?
Well, the name is Colin Wolfe, of course. I went to school with my boy Will. And I started off in Baldwin Hill. That's kind of where my music career started. So then, of course, growing up where we grew up, you grew up listening to Gap Band and P-Funk Funkadelic and Isley Brothers and all that.
Right.
But by us being bused to Par Revere and Pally High, introduced me, and I would think the same for you, to a whole nother world, to the whole rock world, the Led Zeppelins and the Beatles and the Who and the Rolling Stones and all that. So learning that at a nice early age, I think helped expand my musicianship and my horizons as a whole, and just grow as a musician. So I didn't grow up listening to one style, listening to everything, and I try to apply that into my music nowadays.
All right.
And I think all people should do that. And a lot of people don't. They grow up listening to one style of music, and that's the only style they know. But if you want to be a real musician, you got to listen to everything. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to. You have to be open to all of it and just not zero yourself in on one specific genre. Listen to all of it. Listen to the jazz, the hip-hop, the R&B, the rock, the funk.
The reggae.
All of it. Exactly. There you go. So, like you said, Colin, we've known each other since we were teenagers. I mean, my first few guests, I have known everybody for years, 20-plus years. You and I are no exception. As you said, junior high and high school. And when I knew you at Revere and at Pally, you were on bass. I was pretty much the piano player. So my first question to you is, when did you decide to branch off from the bass to the guitar and the keys?
Well, the thing is, bass was not my first instrument. I first learned to play instruments when I was about 3 or 4 years old. My twin blind cousins in Santa Barbara used to babysit my brother and I. They would sit him at the piano trying to teach him stuff. He would learn it. I get on the piano to teach myself what they were trying to teach him. So I would say piano would have been my first instrument, and then drums, and then trumpet, French horn, and then bass. I didn't pick up bass until 6th grade.
Okay.
Over at Baldwin Hills, and that was by mistake. I was the president of the school in elementary, and had my friends come play at lunchtime during Halloween,
right.
And they asked me to play bass on Day Tripper. I had never played bass,
right?
So my mom went and bought me a bass from the pawn shop. I learned the bass for that song, and was doing professional gigs a year and a half later from that point on. Like literally was doing professional gigs, playing that in the City Culture Center every summer, from 7th grade summer on.
Well, dude, you got me speechless on that. That sounds like something I would have ended up doing. I don't toot my own horn too much. Actually, shut up. Really. Yeah, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, we had at Palisades, we had a bomb music teacher. His name was Joel Lish, viola, violin. He was string instrument captain, if you will. And we were... I think you were either out that day or you weren't in the orchestra. I forget which, but another mutual friend of ours, Kogi, he was out sick. And remember, Kogi played bass too. He had a stand-up.
Yeah.
And Mr. Lish, and I've told this story before, Mr. Lish looks over at me because I was in the clarinet section, and he says, "Will, go grab a bass." I'm like, I don't know how to play this thing. And the bass is bigger than me. But, you know, he gave me the beginning instrument book, and I figured out the 4 open strings, that it works in chromatics. And he said, just play whole notes. I just need to hear that bottom end. So that's what made me think about it when you said that you didn't know how to play the bass. And next thing you know, what was it, about a couple of weeks or so it took you to finally be able to get some songs under your belt to go out and do the gigs?
So if that, I didn't have that much time. I had probably about a week.
Wow. Well, that's all right.
And I didn't have a bass, so I had to go to somebody's house to play their bass to learn the bass. I got the bass that same day, the day of the gig. My mom brought me that bass too. So,
oh man,
I only had a couple of times, if that, to learn the bass line, and that's when we went to the other bass player's house for them to practice.
That's how music is, man. If you have the talent as an artist, as a musician, it just takes a few minutes to be able to pick something up and be able to do it.
I mean, I tell everybody, just use your ear. If you can sing it, you can play it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just found out doing that 23andMe thing that there's a gene for us musicians.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I'm like, well, that explains why I can hum stuff back that I can hear. Okay, well, that's all good. Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you played all the other stuff because I saw a video of you. I just watched like maybe a couple of minutes of an interview you did for a radio station. I forget which one it was, but you were telling this very same story about your cousins babysitting you and what have you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And so I was like,
you know my brother Garfield?
Oh, yeah. I know Garfield. There you go. I know. I was like, okay, so that's how that started. Cool. Colin, check it out. What was it like working with some of these greatest performers in the R&B and hip-hop genre? I mean, I mentioned Clinton and Michael and obviously Dre. What was it like, man?
With every different person, the experience was different. I mean, when I got with Dre, he was still in NWA. So the first works I did with him was 100 Miles and Running EP, and then the Niggas for Life album, and then the Deep Cover soundtrack, and then the Chronic album. So I had been with him for a while, and the way we used to work, we showed up at the studio Monday through Friday, every day at 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And we would usually work on NWA up until about 5 or 6 o'clock. Maybe we'd have an hour or so break, and then another artist from Rutgers would come in. Usually it was Jimmy Z at that time, and we would work on his project.
Okay.
So we'd be at the studio Monday through Friday from about 12 to about 8, sometimes later. And we took the weekends off. But we was at the studio Monday through Friday every single day, 365, except for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Other than that, we was up in there. Like, we definitely put in the work. And then sometimes, we would, if we felt like it, we'd do some work at the house too on the weekends. But we usually spent the weekends, like, we would listen to the stuff we did and maybe have barbecues, have people over. And just, I call it urban marketing. Because we would play the stuff we were working on for people and check out the reactions. And we were doing that with the Chronic album, and every time we played G-Thing, we got the same reaction. People was like, "Oh shit, that's my song!" So we knew that was the first single, and that had to be the first one.
Cool. So speaking of G-Thing and the Chronic, how'd you come up with that bass sound everybody knows? I know you did it with a Moog. Tell us about how you came around to using that, what is considered by many to be an iconic bass sound.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, it started from the Niggas for Life album on that song, Always Into Something. We first using it like the Funky Worm sound that was used, I think it was Gap Band or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That use that same instrument, because you could use it as a bass or you can use it as like a high synth mono sound.
Right.
So we first used it then. We bought it for, I think, $150, maybe $300 at the most, from one of like Herbie Hancock's texts or somebody like that.
Okay.
From like the Classifieds. So then, once we were going to the Chronic album, we knew we wanted to have a big Parliament Funkadelic sound, and we knew that they used Moog heavily. Bernie Worrell was a beast on that thing.
They do.
So we knew we wanted to use that Moog. So we basically, set the Moog up there. I had the Moog, had my bass, and our boy Eric Borders, he came and played some guitars as well too.
Borders played?
Yeah.
Oh
so
man.
We would be there, and we would just get the sound exactly how we wanted it, and then just. Back then we're going to 2-inch, right? Wasn't no Pro Tools, wasn't no cutting, copying, and pasting. Then you got to play it from top to bottom. So,
exactly.
We had to get we would just get there and get the tone we wanted. So you just have to mess with the knob. You got it exactly where you want it.
And write down possibly where you set what knob in the old school.
If we were
way.
smart, we would write stuff down, but nah, we wasn't writing nothing down.
Oh, that would just be somebody like me. I hear you, man. You just have to remember where you said it, or keep dialing it back in until you get it right.
Well,
That's
we normally wouldn't have to go back and re-record that song again. Once it was done, it was done.
Yeah.
Only song we had to re-record was G-Thing. I think we had to do that song 3 times, because one time the tape got lost somehow.
Ooh.
The second time, the tape melted in the car.
Dang.
So we had to do that song 3 times. So the version you hear now was like our 3rd time doing it.
Wow. I mean, we have some crazy things happening as musicians. The tape melted.
Oh, yeah.
Dang. That's...
But then earlier you asked me how was it like working with other people. And I'm sure you were talking about not only Dr. J, but some of the other people too, like your George Clintons and your Michael Jacksons, and even your Madonnas and so forth, and Erick Sermon.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, every experience was different. With George, they sent me an acapella, and I just went to town on the track and just rearranged the track and put all kind of different instruments and different parts and different vocals on the track, and then sent it back to them, and they were just blown away. And he came back to the studio after the fact, but he wasn't actually there when I came up with it. And with Michael Jackson, man, that guy was at the studio every day. He was a beast. I played bass on one of the songs this time around, and we demoed it in Atlanta. So in Atlanta, I waited 8 bars before I came in with the bass line. So then we came out here to L.A. to record it for real. And so I'm like, let me just put the bass at the top just in case they might want it there.
Yeah.
So then I guess Mike is getting ready to do his vocals, or Bruce is getting ready to mix it, Bruce Woodine. And so Bruce comes to me, he's like, yo, Michael wants you to play exactly how you did in Atlanta. I'm like, I did. I just played it at the beginning as well. I'm like, just hit mute. It's like, nope, you got to do it exactly how you did in Atlanta. I'm like, wow. But I did. All you have to do is just hit mute. And then I muted with the nice bar here. She's like, no, you got to do it exactly how you did. I'm like, okay. So I waited 8 bars, played the same exact thing. And because they kept me out there for so long, waiting to redo this bass line and stuff like that, they had to pay me every day for that. So, dude, I wound up getting, like, put it this way, I figure just to play that one song.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Madonna was a beast. Madonna would we come up with the track, took us to get 30, 45 minutes to get the idea going. She'd be like, yeah. So then as we're developing the track more, putting more stuff to it, she'd be in the back with a book full of poems, or she didn't find something that she liked for it. And these are her poems. She would just write lyrics to it right there on the spot. So within a couple of hours, we sitting there demoing the song. So she was quick with it.
That's the creative genius for you, man. That's creativity right there.
Oh, yeah.
We've all got that.
I mean, it doesn't take long. When your creative flow is going, it doesn't take long. It really doesn't.
It doesn't. When you're in the zone, everything seems to just click. All the cylinders fire off.
It really does, yep.
So
sometimes I can't keep up with myself. I'm hearing all these ideas in my head.
There you go. I find that when I'm playing, sometimes my left hand can't keep up with the right. I mean, I've always had to practice more with the left hand on the bass, but
no doubt.
It's like, okay, because I had that, if you're taking piano lessons and you can't get both of your hands to sync, probably because your dominant hand is taking over. For most people, it's the right hand takes over, and you can just zip through something on the right hand. It's that left hand, your offhand, that is just like your fingers are struggling, and this, that, and the other, and so it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
Well, but once you get in the zone, that offhand is almost unnoticeable. You just zoom through everything, so you're like, oh. That deficit isn't there. All right, cool. So let's go into the next one. Since you were working with these different artists and everything, and you shared some of your experiences, does the work you do primarily cover as a musician or in other areas? Because I know what you do. I know you play. I know you compose, you arrange, you produce. Where do you think most of your work happens nowadays?
Nowadays, in production and songwriting. So developing artists, there being artists that I'm interested in working with, and they'll come to the studio, and I just really just tell them just come with an open mind. And so I like to talk to them, get to know them, see what's going on with them, and if I'm clicking with this person, then I can just vibe with them and something will just come out. And, normally sometimes they might come with an idea, or I don't know. I just make sure that they come to the studio with an open mind. So nowadays I play mostly production and songwriting, and I am doing a little bit of mixing with some of the artists I'm working with as well. Okay. But mostly production, I would say.
Right. So I just thought of this one right at the top of my head, just to piggyback on what you just said. You got any kind of method? Because you just said that you go talk to the people and you just try to feel them out or whatever. use kind of the same method, if you will, when you're developing these new artists? Because I think this is important for young folks to know. You don't just get up there, and we had this conversation the other day, which I want to try and get into later. You don't just get up there and go. You have to be developed. So do you have any kind of style or mannerisms or anything that you do when you're developing an artist after you've talked to them and feel them out?
No, I try to keep an open mind myself. So, and this goes to another question. I know. Well, I'll get to that other answer later. But I try not to listen to the radio too much. I like to keep my mind open because I've grown up listening to a lot of stuff. So I like other things to inspire me, not somebody else's ideals. In music inspire me. Maybe looking at the ocean, or maybe some art, or somebody's expression or something. So I try to keep an open mind as well. But as soon as an artist be like, "Oh, I want to be the next Michael Jackson. I really want to be the next this person," I show them the door. Be like, "You can leave then, because you got to be the next you. You can't be that somebody else. That person's already been that. You just got to be you. You know what I mean? It can't be afraid to be you." And a lot of people just don't get that. I know people whose whole careers is trying to be like some other artist. And it's, that's not the way to go.
No, because you can be inspired by these other artists.
Oh,
but,
exactly.
We that other artist, exactly, that we all are. But that other artist is that other artist. There's not going to be another so-and-so, despite the fact that the media tells you, "Oh, she's the next so-and-so, and he's the next such-and-such."
Don't
squash
buy into
all of that. Ignore that. Squash
Ignore
it.
that.
Be
Ignore
you. That. If you're inspired, great. If you,
that's one thing. Exactly. That's one thing. And you can hear it in my music, my inspiration from all kind of different people, all different genres. It just really depends on the song I'm working on, or the artist I'm working on. You definitely hear my influences, but I never tried to be, as far as the bass player, I never tried to be like some other bass player.
There you go.
I mean,
because that other bass player,
a bunch of them.
Exactly, that other bass player is that other bass player. He or she came up with that. You got to come up with your own. It's all right to be inspired by it, but I mean, like you said, you hear it in your works. You'll hear it in mine. I mean, one of my favorite jazz bands of all time are the Yellow Jackets. I love those cats. And I'll listen, and I'm like, "Oh, so he did that. Okay, he did this, he did that, boom, 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 boom." But I can't do that for a lot of reasons. But to go on what you said, I'm trying to be the best me I can be. I don't want to sound like Russell Ferrante on keyboards.
No, exactly.
I don't have a problem if people hear a lick or two. It's like, "Oh, you heard that?" I guess I kind of did, but but I'm still me,
Exactly.
Exactly. So let me jump to a different one real quick. I want to get to your instruments. This is Gigs, Gear, and Info, so I want to get to a little bit about the gear. Your bass.
You said about the gear?
Yeah, your bass. And all the other instruments. What's your favorite one?
Alembic, which is spelled ALEMBRC. Mark King from Level 42 plays an Alembic. Stanley Clark plays an Alembic. It's just, when you grew up in the era that I grew up in, that was the top bass of all the top basses at that time was the Alembic. Very expensive, but once you get one, then you know why it's expensive. It's just one of the bombs. But then, other than that, I do like Fenders. I like a P bass, and I like the jazz basses as well. But my go-to bass is my Alembic. Okay. That's my main one.
Cool. Yeah. What about when it goes into the studio? Mixing boards, the computer apps you use, or the equipment that you might be fond of, and why do you like to use some of those pieces?
If it was my choice, I'd be in the studio where they had an SSL board.
Right.
But, you got to be in the big studio for that. So, other than that, most of the work, all the work we do is on Pro Tools. And, of course, for EQ, I use the SSL channel board stuff. Yeah. And I just, there's so many plugins and stuff you can have nowadays. I just try to cater it for whatever song I'm working on. But as far as my EQs go, for the most part, I'm always using the SSL stuff for EQs for me personally, because I know the sound of that stuff. So I've been working with SSLs for a long time, so that's my comfort zone if I'm gonna put EQ on something, which I usually put EQ on, everything pretty much.
So with regards to the SSL, other than it being in your comfort zone, why'd you choose that particular?
Because that's just the one I spend most of my time in. Like, that's the boards we use on the Chronic album and the Deep Cover soundtrack. So,
all right, so you developed
a board I spent a lot of time on.
Right, developed a serious familiarity with the SSL.
Yeah,
right.
And NS10s. Well, I have Cali Audio speakers, and I have NS10s, and I go back and forth to those two. Those Cali Audios, when I really want to hear the low end and the whole broad band of the whole thing, I'll go to that. But when I want to hear it kind of lo-fi, then I go to the NS10s.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I was doing some online research, getting ready to hook this up for the interview we're doing now, and I found something interesting, because I mean, you and I haven't seen each other since, and I'm on date.
No.
We haven't seen each other since 1984, man. So
yeah,
folks, we are catching up. This is a reunion. When I talk to my friends, it's like a great reunion with all of them. But the interesting thing,
when our talent show got canceled, we was about to kill it. Remember that?
We were. Oh man, we
was gonna crush it. Oh my god!
And they're like, no talent show. So I mean, our Pally peeps, when I put this out there after I edited, they're gonna be like, oh, he talked to Colin, because I will tell you, and I'm gonna get him. He's gonna be on. Our boy Todd Stockwell. I'm gonna get Todd and his band up here on the show.
I'm gonna see Todd next weekend up in Santa Barbara.
Oh, cool, Mr. Stockwell. What's happening? We got this. Yeah. We got this. I'll be hollering at you about things. So he'll be coming up in a later episode. Bad rock drummer, Todd Stockwell. He's a bad rock drummer. But the interesting thing that I found, you were a producer in residence at Manifold Recording in North Carolina. Tell us about that, because that's going to back up to the Moog and the Moog Fest. Just tell us all about that.
I started off with the University of Carolina School of the Arts. I went out there, I think, for about a week and a half, and I spent basically like a week on campus doing different workshops and stuff with the students and stuff. Right. And when I first got out there, they had this little theater in their little town right by the school, and they gave me the theater for a night. So I did like a little chronic presentation workshop at the theater where not only students could come, but just people from that area could come. And so we had a good little crowd there. And then the following week, I went out to the school, spent like a week with the school there, and did some workshops with the kids. And then after that, went out to Raleigh-Durham, where they had the Moog Fest. Moog, they used festival once a year during the springtime, and I went out there, did a workshop for them as well, and they gave me one of the Moogs to take home with me.
Oh, that's cool.
So then that kind of turns in with Manifold, which is in Pittsburgh. One of the guys who's on the chairman and the boards at the School of the Arts owns a studio. So I was out there for about 2 weeks, and we were working on this little EP with this project I was doing. And man, it's like sits on this property that's about like 8 acres of land or something like that.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures online from their
big old
site.
House, and then you walk down like 100 yards or so down to where the studio's at, and this studio is something else. Really beautiful studio. And we were there for like literally for 2 weeks. So we would like wake up, take a walk around the pond, make breakfast, and then walk down to the studio and be at the studio all day. And it was great. I mean, that studio was something else. That board. I think that's a Neve board, if I remember correctly. And just the engineer there, Ian, he's a beast. He knows that room in and out. But it's a beautiful room, a really, really beautiful room.
Yeah,
that studio is something else, man.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures from their website, and I will put all that information, ladies and gentlemen, in the show notes where you can check those photographs out. And when you Google Colin Wolfe, you'll find a bunch of videos where he's talking and he's hollering out at people, telling what he's doing, what we're talking about today. I also found that you did work with some video games.
Well, they use one of my songs in their game. I think they used Deep Cover in one of those Grand Theft Auto games. So yeah, they had to give me my credit, of course.
Right.
But yeah, they used one of our songs in their game.
Right.
One of the early versions. It was the San Andreas one or something like that.
Yeah, San Andreas and the Liberty City.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, see, I'm going back for him because he did Moog Fest in 2017 in the songwriting workshop up in North Carolina. That was 2017. The video games, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and Liberty City Stories, and they give you credit for the True Crime New York City video games.
Oh, okay.
So there you have it. I want to jump back and bring us back to California, at Venice, where you primarily are out of now.
Yeah.
Tell us about Beacon Street Studio. I saw some of the photos that you had on your page, your Facebook page.
Okay.
And where you were
Beacon
holding
Street?
a boom box, and there was an upright outside, and it looks like you were about ready to get started or what have you. You were in the midst of a project. But just tell us about Beacon Street. What's that like?
Beacon Street is down in Venice on Abercrombie. And, man, I've been with these cats for about 20 years. John Allen, Andrew Feldenstein, a couple of real cool cats. And we do a lot of commercials and movies and stuff there, TV and film as well. So we also develop some artists. We have an artist that is signed with us called Crown. Mm-hmm. So I think what you saw with the boombox, that was a video we shot where we started off at the studio and we literally walked down to the beach, and the whole video is just us walking down to the beach, basically. But then we're working on a new project now with Crown. So Beacon Street, right there on Abercrombie, beautiful location, very inspirational place. And we do a lot of commercials and a lot of TV and film. It's a great place to be.
So you're composing with them, engineering, you're doing all of the whole 9 yards.
Composing, yeah.
Playing on any of the tracks for them, on any of the projects that they bring in?
Oh, yeah. We got a few things that I can't really talk about yet.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
But we've had at least more than several movies that have already come out that we've done. Anchorman 2, a bunch of different movies. We've done a few already that have come out, but we're working on some more stuff currently now. That should hopefully be out soon.
Right. So,
and we're constantly working on commercials. You know what I mean? There's a lot we've been doing over there. It's a great place.
Right. So, like with just with the stuff that we can talk about, like with Anchorman 2 or the commercials, are you engineering? Any music involved? Are you playing on it?
Composing, both.
Okay.
I'm either composing or playing on stuff that they have. With the commercials, we have a team of composers there. I have my room. Everybody has their own rooms or whatever. So they'll send the commercial out to everybody, and you look at it, you get an idea, and put some music to it. And you'll get some notes from the agency, like spotting notes, like make this a high point, or take your music out here, or whatnot.
Right.
So it's interesting work. It's cool. It's fun. I've done some cool stuff with that, with those commercial things. Some of the projects have been really, really cool. Did this project with Adidas called Brotherhood some years back. And basically they were just like, yo, just make a hip-hop album. And they took the tracks and just put them up into different spots.
Right.
That was fun. Because otherwise, like some of the commercials, you know, they'd be like, "Oh, can you make a track like this song or that song?" And internally, I'm like, "No," because I'm not that person, and I'm not feeling that way. You know what I mean? I like it best when they just give me the picture and just let me do what I do, because I feel and hear something as soon as I see the picture.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Feel and hear something completely different than whatever idea they're bringing to you to do. Make it sound like so and so on this, and it's like,
I hate that.
No, you're stifling my creativity here. I need to do it my way. I mean, folks, we don't mean to sound selfish and everything, but for those of you young people that are coming up and you're trying to get in the door, or you're in the door, or, you know, you're already beyond the door, whatever you want to call it, it's a creativity thing. You've got to get out there, do it the way you feel doing it. If someone gives you a project and they want you to do X, Y, Z, of course you're going to do X, Y, Z. But if they give you these little caveats in between and you're like, you got to figure that out.
Yeah,
you got to figure that out.
You got to pick and choose your battles. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you gotta go with the flow. Sometimes you gotta stand up and do you. So you gotta pick and choose your battles.
There you go. You know, when I was talking to you the other day, you and I got into this kind of deep conversation about music, and we were touching on some of the things, and I wanted to just, because this is, you know, particularly for the younger brothers and sisters that are coming up after us trying to get into this game. We were talking about people just taking loops, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm a big techno guy. I love the technology. You know, the tech has gotten to the point to where you don't have to go into the large studio with the large clunky equipment. You can do it yourself on your laptop if you got the right gear.
Oh yeah.
But some people will like overuse loops or whatever and think they got a hit. But then you're like, as you and I, who are actual sheet reading musicians, who know the difference between middle C and G on a piece of paper, and know the difference between G minor 7 flat 5 to C7 sharp 9.
No doubt.
If we get to that musician who's used loops and say, okay, show it to me so I can write this down, they have no clue what we're talking about.
No.
And we were going on that one, and it's just like, I described it as old school. Ladies and gentlemen, back here in California, we had, past tense, a store called Fedco and Gemco. This is before Sears. This is before Costco.
Yeah.
And all of those old department stores, every last one of them had a musical instrument department. Primarily, they were Casios. And the kids would come up to the Casio. Some of them would be plugged up, some of them wouldn't be. And they would just plunk and play or think they were playing, making a bunch of noise. But for the most part, they'd just leave the drum machine running. And the arpeggiator, up and down and up and down. And it's like, my point is this. If you guys use loops too much, it's going to start sounding like somebody left the Casio on in a department store.
Yeah.
The point is this. Learn.
Well, the problem is they're not
craft.
gonna learn music.
Exactly. They're going to rely
They're not going to learn music, yeah.
They're going to rely on the track, the loop. They're going to rely on that button and what have you. And there is such a thing as overusing those loops, and sometimes overusing your plug-ins. You know, for those that don't know, the plug-in is basically when you're using a DAW, digital audio workstation, you've got places where you can insert different types of effects, a compressor, limiter, different types of EQ.
Yeah, delays, reverb.
And all of that, right? So you click on your button on the mouse.
Which is basically your outboard gear is what that is.
Yeah. Your outboard gear has been shrunk and digitized and now fits on your laptop to where you no longer require a 1/4-inch cable to take you out of the board into this particular gear and then out of the gear back into the board or run it through another one and this processor, that, and this, that, and the other. This loop goes here and this goes here. You know, you don't have to go insert peg A into slot B, right? You just click a button on your mouse.
Cables.
There you go. There you go. You just click a button on your mouse or whatever.
It's been shrunk, in size, but also expanded. Now you have much more. Now you have as much outboard gear as you would have that would cost you $2,500 to $3,000 a day in the studio back in the day would cost.
Yeah.
Like that kind of studio would have all that outboard gear that you have access to, basically.
Exactly. But cats do overuse that stuff, and that's what we're talking about right now on this particular topic. Overusing instead of relying on your natural talent, because there will come a day, let's just say that you loop the bejeebies out of a song and it takes off and becomes a hit, and you're asked by somebody to come into their studio and re-record it, right? That means they're gonna. Okay, that's our imaginary scenario, right? So you're asked by Mr. Producer to come back into his studio, who's going to pay a gob of money to re-record this because he wants to digitally master it and clean it up or whatever his reason is, right? Mm-hmm. So you trek down to his studio. You're all happy and jolly. Yeah, it's so-and-so's going to do this. Okay, fine. You get to the studio. First thing there you go. And you walk in, you see all of the personnel there. You see various musicians. You see the drummer, the bass player, the guitar player, probably a couple of keyboard players, and maybe a sax and a trumpet player. And you got 2 background vocalists, right? And the producer says to you, "All right, here's the song. Can you take a few minutes to write down those chord changes? Because the band, they got hung up on the B section," and your face drops.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have no idea, 1, what the B section is, and 2, you can't read music. So you don't know what to write or where to start writing from. The point is, folks, we went to school for this, and I know there's different scenarios and different reasons why or why not. But at some point, Colin, you said it perfectly. Use your ear. Even if you can't read it, use your ear.
Yeah.
There are theory books out there. I mean, we came up at a time to where we had music books, and it was stressed to learn to read music. Okay, so I can tell you right now, Colin and I are equally as comfortable playing in a P-Funk style band or a rock band or a classical chamber orchestra setting. Because
no doubt.
We've played all of that kind of stuff, you know. And music teachers would give us the music. We'd go over it a few times. And maybe by the end of the week, we'd have that symphony nailed, or that sonata, or, you know, that particular movement in the classical world, you know, or whatever the song is, whatever the genre is. But folks, I say that to say this. Be prepared in this industry for anybody coming up with an offer like that, and you have to go and write something out for somebody. This is called putting in the work. Because you don't just go in. You just don't go in and lay down the track. Oh, no. You might have to take and retake, punch in with, you know, go back to a certain part in the song because there could be an unforeseen error. Nowadays with computers, it might buffer wrong, or the synchronization between the computer and whatever other piece of gear it's connected to might not have synced right, so your track comes out garbled. Okay, we're going to take it from this point here. You got to be able to come in right on that spot.
Oh, yeah.
This is just, you know, we got into it about that, and it's just like, it is frustrating when you can't get the person to really break it down for you the way you need it to be broken down so that you can give them the best you. you can be. That's all.
Yep.
I'm off the soapbox now. I'm done on that. I'm done on that. I just thought it was real interesting. I wanted to put that in there, because
no doubt.
We were going to keep going, but, we both had stuff we had to do, so we never got to finish it. But that was the whole point, learn your craft.
Yeah, exactly.
And so on that same vein, what other information can you pass on to the young people, us middle-aged, old folk, and anybody who's just trying to do it, no matter what they do or they're trying to do as an entertainer, whether they're a musician or they're behind the scenes as an engineer? What kind of things could you pass on that you've picked up, that you've learned from the various people? Whatever. Knock it out. The floor is yours, man.
Basically, whatever you do, have integrity. Just keep at it and never tell anybody that you can't do it. I mean, and know in your heart that you can, and just don't stop. Keep working at your craft. Just keep working at it. Because if you're doing something right, then you will notice your progression. The funny thing is, I was working with this artist I've been working with for 2 years. She was in the studio with me the other day, and she's been taking video shots of us working in the studio damn near for the last 2 years. And you could see the progression, dude. It's so amazing. You could see her when she first came in, all shy, singing all quiet, until up to now. She's on stage, killing it, confident, this and that. And then the songs and stuff development is it's amazing. So as long as you keep at it and you keep your integrity, you will get better. Over time, you will get better. But a lot of people, they don't keep at it. There is no integrity. They will take weeks and months off and come back to it and this and that. And then also, once you start an idea, try to finish it. Because sometimes it's hard to go back to that feeling you had when you came up with that idea. It's hard to do that. So if you start a song, try to finish it if you can. And that's it.
All right. Yeah, because that goes on to the creativity that we mentioned earlier. Once the creativity juices are flowing, go with them until they run out.
Go with it.
Until they run out. And when they run out, take a little break. When the juices hit again, go with it again. Go with it again.
Yeah.
I mean, movies, from the writing standpoint, somebody writes a movie. Let's just say the first Avengers movie, because I'm a big comic book guy. How long do you think it took the folks that actually wrote the movie? Not the filming of it, not the final product we see, but writing it, the script, what Hulk is going to say, what Iron Man says, the interaction between Black Widow and Hawkeye. How long do you think it took for those cats to write some of that stuff? Excuse me. Years.
Yeah.
Years.
I mean, I heard it took the writing of Godfather, from what I heard, he locked himself up into a hotel room, and it took him 3 or 4 days, nonstop, straight to write that.
Yep. So there you go. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It can.
Oh, no.
But the chances are that it happens at the drop of a hat or the drop of a dime is few and far between. The chances are very slim to none. So
I mean, the thing is, you only hear the stuff that's come out.
Yeah.
You don't hear all this other songs that like that in the vault. You know what I mean? For every one that comes out, there's probably 20 or 30 that didn't.
Exactly.
If not more. Shoot, if not more.
I mean, because when you were sharing earlier, you and NWA, Dre, Cube, and all of you guys, 5 days a week, easily.
Yeah.
5+ hours in the studio, easily.
Yeah.
So, folks, let's just say 5 hours. Let's cut it at 5 hours, although it was more. 5 days a week, that's 25 hours. That's a full day plus an hour nonstop. If you were to do that, please don't do that. You will kill yourself. But stretch it out over that period of time. For how many weeks did it take just to do the first album?
The EP, the 100 Miles of Running, that probably took a couple of months.
See?
The Niggas for Life album, that may have taken about a half a year, about 6 months or something like that, I think.
See?
Somewhere up in there.
6 months of creative juice is constantly flowing. That's the point.
I mean, it's not longer. It could have easily been almost a year, but I don't think it was longer than a year. I don't think so.
Yeah, because the song has to be written. Everybody basically has got to be cool with how it goes from this section to this section to this section.
Oh, yeah.
Then you got to lay down the song. You got to listen to it. Oh, I didn't like this part. You got to go back and fix that part.
Oh, yeah.
Re-record this. Re-record that.
Yep.
Edit this. Edit that. Mix this in. Mix that out. EQ this. EQ that. It's a lot to do. But you know what? At the end of the day, it is so gratifying when you are finally finished 5, 6, 7 months down the road, and you finally hear the final project before you get ready to put it out there, and everybody's nodding their head to the beat, and then you finally get that final word. It's like, that's the one. That right there.
Yep, and on the Niggas for Life album and 100 Miles of Running, we was working on the board that didn't have automation, so there's 3 of us sitting at the board while we're mixing it, and we each had a job to do. We each had buttons to do.
Right.
As the song went down, we were taking it from 2-inch to 1/4-inch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, back in the old times when you have to hit your mutes and raise your volumes and stuff like that, like manually as the song is going down. So
right,
it was fun times. For sure.
That's when you really got to learn the board. You got to learn the equipment, and that's when
learn the craft.
And learn the craft for real, because you had to do it yourself. You didn't have to rely on the automation to raise or lower the volume or anything of that nature, raise the gain, what have you. You didn't have the automation. You had to, like he said, you had to do it yourself. So, cool. Yeah. Final couple questions real quick. Colin, thank you so much again, my brother, for doing this for me.
Yes,
you got any contact information or website you want to pass on to anybody? Folks, you can look him up on YouTube, and you can see some of those interviews. I did note that there's an IMDb page that lists some of your credits. I'll put that in the show notes. But is there any contact you want to throw out? Does Beacon Street take people off the street, which I doubt, but, you know, how do you...
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of different Instagram accounts, either CWolf86 on Instagram, The Sounds 2020 Instagram, Sion Sounds on Instagram. Usually those, I do have a YouTube page, but I never put stuff on there. I do have a couple of interviews and stuff, and I think the people I've done those interviews with, they're the ones who put them on YouTube. I need to organize that a little better. But, I mean, people can contact me through the IG page, and they can message me, whatever. I'll hit them back, you know what I mean? Give them some advice or whatever.
Right,
you know, a little consultation or whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I respond to people back on there.
Cool,
sure.
Cool. I think that's cool that people do that.
Oh, yeah.
My last guest was Alphonse Philippe Mouzon.
Cool.
You know, and you know who his dad was. And that was one of the things Alphonse was talking about, how there was this particular drummer who called numerous famous world-class drummers out there for advice, saying, you know, I'm trying to come up in this game, any advice? And he said that they hung up on this young brother until he got to Alphonse Mouzon himself. And they talked on the phone for a couple of hours, which I thought I thought that was very nice, very cool. You know, we can't forget where we came from, because we were that guy. I'm still, in many ways, that guy. It's just about giving back, man, because one day we're not going to be here. Somebody's got to take our place, and then somebody's got to take your place after that. It's like that old commercial, I told two friends, and so on and so on. The same thing with the industry. If Colin's making it happen now, when Colin's ready to retire, who's going to pop up for Colin? And he's got to do it his way. Don't be the next anybody. Be the best you that you can be.
Exactly.
I'm going to get to this, and this is going to be the last one, my brother. And I ask my guests this one question. I ask all my guests this one question.
All right.
What's in your car? In other words, what do you listen to when you're driving in L.A., stuck in traffic, or when you're traveling and you've got it coming through your phone, on your earbuds, whatever? What does Colin Wolfe listen to?
You know what? To be honest with you, mostly talk show radio, because
I ain't mad at you.
Don't like a lot of the stuff that they play on today's radio.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to it for about 30 minutes, and then you basically heard the loop that they're going to be playing for the whole day. So And then all the songs sound the same for one, and then another, I don't want their ideas stuck in my head. So
Yeah.
if I'm just going from point A to point B, this is a little short trip. Usually I'm just listening to talk show radio. Usually when I go work out or go for a long walk in the morning, then I'll listen to stuff I'm working on to get ideas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm driving up to Santa Barbara, sometimes I'll listen to some of my tracks and write lyrics to them. Or maybe then that's when I'll put on the radio and just listen to different things in different stations. And I could be in the classical mood. I could be in the Hispanic samba merengue mood or whatever. I could be in the jazz mood. I could be in the reggae mood. If I listen to radio, you know what I do like? Like those stations like KCRW.
Okay.
They play cool stuff. Like your 89.9, 89.3s. You know what I mean? But for the most part, honestly, talk show radio, that's actually where I can catch up with just different topics that are going on. You know what I mean? And I can clear my mind. I can hear myself think. Because I don't need other people's ideas stuck in my head. Because I'm a sponge when it comes to music.
Yeah.
I hear everything and I take in everything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
it prevents copyright infringement, folks. By the way, legally protect your work. Yeah, it legally protects your work, because if you hear something and you're like, okay, that's cool, and then you try to get back to your stuff because all you're doing is acknowledging how you like that bass line, and then you think you moved on. Next thing you know, you just might have subconsciously, accidentally, inadvertently,
subconsciously,
written down or copied or copped, as we say, so-and-so's segment of a bass line or a keyboard part, and you go listen to the whole track, and you're like, I did not mean it. Oh, I got to re-record that. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
But, that's pretty much what's going on. I mean, you know.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. That is what's up. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Music Outlook LA, Gigs, Gear, and Info. Thanks again to my guest, Colin Wolfe. Be sure to check out the show notes for his information, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. Music Outlook LA is also available on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, CastBox, the TuneIn Radio app, and Listen Notes, the podcast search engine. I'm Will Kimsey, a.k.a. WK Music. Peace.
That's it. Peace.
This podcast is both brought to you and produced by Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Music Outlook LA is a copyrighted broadcast of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Will Kimsey or Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or any other use of this product without the express written consent of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC is strictly prohibited.